Good morning, YouTube. This is Amherst with MMO Anthropology, and holy crap, there are a lot of new people here, so I think that maybe this is a good time to introduce the channel to everyone again, and maybe give you an idea of what I do here and why I do it. So, I'm bringing everyone into the world of, well, Guild Wars 2, in front of one of the more weird contraptions that I know about, because if there's anything about this particular virtual world, it's a great love that they have for their artwork and their social spaces. Well, let's do this. As many of you may already know, I was just interviewed by Magicman on MMO Bomb's Fuse, which is a new show that they're putting on their website and channel, and many of you are from that, so welcome. You probably already know me from the forums since I post there a lot and may have already seen some of my videos. If you haven't, here's your first. Most of the time you'll find me looking around MMO games in order to discover either community or look at the way that MMO games attempt to connect with their audiences. One of the big things that is done, and one of the most interesting things that I've discovered, or at least one of the things that I want to bring to the audiences who view my craft, are how MMO games attempt to recapitulate or demonstrate to their external cultures. And since I am from the United States, I am more used to Western cultures, and of course things like Blizzard are top on my list with World of Warcraft. Often what I like to do is give an example or a demonstration of what they're doing for particular holidays, which are one of the best places to look at how MMO games are using external culture in order to connect with their audiences. Of course, largely they're doing this to make money, but in a lot of cases, you can also look at the way that their communities react to the changes, the way that they use them to essentially gamify holidays. For example, many holidays already have games intrinsically linked to them, like trick-or-treating with Halloween, especially the trick portion, bobbing for apples. There's even Christmas time games where chess might be played with dollops of candy or something like that. But in MMO games, it's possible to regenerate an entire world around a theme, because holidays come with their own cultural iconography. They come with their own instilled cultural baggage, which can be dragged into a game. And so World of Warcraft has one of the best examples of this, and so you'll probably be seeing me running around doing Christmas time holiday events, or even maybe Thanksgiving if I get that lucky. Every time I do a commentary, I'm always in game. Generally, you'll all be talking while I'm moving my character around. I will react to things that are in the virtual universe, because the whole point of speaking about MMO anthropology, and in fact I would like to reiterate some of the ways that cultural anthropology and even cyborg anthropology build into the way that people interact and actually use MMO games as social spaces. Oh, nice griffins here. One of the things that I'd like to bring to you right now, instead of just giving a greeting video to everyone from MMO Bomb, is to talk about how MMOs are, in fact, highly social spaces. Anyone who has ever played an MMO knows that they're not going in alone. Although there may be people like me who have a tendency to play solo for a long period of time, there are people who only go in to play with other people, like to play PvP. You can't not encounter other people. There are people who always go in with the same people. They play the game specifically to spend time with their friends. Then, as a result, MMOs aren't just simply cultural social spaces, but they're this sort of liminal space. They are at a fringe, a membrane of the different societies that they interact with. And not only that, MMOs, as virtual spaces, enable MMO game makers to generate a set of rules. A set of rules that define the way that players interact, the way that the world works. They have their own cultural underpinning of a codification of how the game's laws work, so to speak. And that's all wrapped up in the gameplay. Gameplay and mechanics essentially set up a base set of rules that everyone abides by, although it's possible to exploit them, which is another thing that I have a tendency to talk about, which involves cheating, cheaters, competition, etc. All of these things arise in normal cultures outside of MMOs, but they're even more interesting inside of MMOs because of their nature as code, means that there's the possibility of subverting it. This brings to mind a story that I heard from another YouTuber whose name is Marky Dragon, who plays a lot of World of Tanks, but he was in fact talking about Richard Garriott, or Lord British, the developer and initial, basically father of Ultima Online, which is one of the very first graphical MMOs. He tells a story about how one day Lord British was wandering through his domain, Ultima Online, and he found a girl who was extremely upset. She was either weeping or angry in front of her house in the game, and extolled upon him that she had just had some of her stuff stolen by, well, a ruffian. A thief had come by and taken her stuff, and this is possible in Ultima Online. In fact, thieving is part of the substrate of the game's mechanics. But he says, okay, look, I'm going to go solve this. I can't have people stealing from my customers because you might not want to come back and play the game again. And so Lord British rushes off, grabs the thief, takes the stuff from him and says, hey, don't do that. So he goes back and he gives the stuff back to the girl and he says, I'm sorry, here's your stuff back. And as he's talking to her about her experience, the thief shows up again and runs off with her stuff again. Of course, Lord British can't have this. He just returned it to her and rushes out to retrieve it yet again. And he stops the guy, he takes the stuff, and he says, look, I can't have you doing this. Stop doing that. You know, you can't be stealing her stuff. And the guy says, okay, sorry, you've caught me twice. I won't do it again. I apologize. And Lord Lord British is all like, look, if you do this again, I'll just have to ban you. And so he returns the stuff to the thief. Well, excuse me, to the girl. Well, what of course happens again is the thief comes by again and steals it right back from under their noses once again. And this time, Lord British isn't having any of it. He stops the guy. He rains down on him with, his glory and light and says, no, I'm taking this stuff back to her, and now I'm going to have to ban you. I already warned you when I caught you before. So I'm going to ban you from the game for, well, being a thief. And the guy says, whoa, wait a second. Hold on. Can I appeal to you? And Lord British says, well, okay, before I ban you, I'll listen. And the guy says, look, in this game, not only is it possible to play a thief like I am now, but it's encouraged. You made it possible for people to steal things from others. You even put locks in the game. So thieves are a part of the game. I'm just playing my role. Why should I get banned from the game for playing my role? Many times, so at that point, apparently either Lord British was convinced by this and let the guy go and said sorry to the girl, or maybe he thought of changing the rules of the game to include stockades, for example, where instead of banning an individual, he could have made a rule in the world where when someone is caught committing a in virtual world crime, they could be thrown in virtual jail. Whereas banning is more like exiling a person entirely from the game. And sometimes, especially looking at a person who's not subverting the rules, someone who's actually following the rules as a thief, doing their role, playing the game, doesn't really deserve to be booted or removed entirely, but there's no reason why mechanics can't, in the game themselves, can't provide a social or a cultural context for crime and punishment. So there's both cheating, which is exploiting the game outside of its rules, outside of the mechanics and the environment, and then there could be also social rules for how we treat gamers who, fail the laws or rules or code in the game itself. And I think that's an excellent example of how games have both internal rules and external rules. And this is, in a sense, anthropologically and sociologically, the idea of how the way that the nature of an environment affects the cultures that arise within them. And MMOs are rife with this. You look at the way that people react to changes to the player versus environment or player versus player rules that change the way that they're, their battle works, the way that kicking ass works, and they discover themselves having to make new strategies or complaining about them, etc. And these are often the things that I'm looking at. So if you have any personal experiences in these games that involve you playing with your friends, the things that make them interesting, the places that you like going and you like being part of, I'm interested in hearing about that from you. In fact, I should link you to a video where I've been interviewing both regular players, developers, people who write reviews. I even interviewed Magicman for one of them about his experience in MMO games for publication here on MMO Anthropology. Just I want everyone to know who's watching that your experience itself is a fundamental aspect of what makes games like this interesting. Games like this, they're these social games that bring people together, that form cultural spaces. And I'm really interested in that, and I'm also interested in bringing it to everyone who's watching. So if you have a thing to talk about your time in games, or what MMOs you play and why, I'd love to have you at my table. Meanwhile, this has been a little bit of a rambling explanation of what my channel's about, what you can expect here, and thank you for coming along. This has been another MMO Anthropology, and to all of you, good night and good dreams.